I used to cringe when people said Ozempic healed their relationship with food as they continued to eat candy bars. It really seemed like they were delusional and like they just actually didn't want to deal with what was actually going on with their lives. But now I have to admit, they were right.
Today's episode's brought to you by my free community found at radicallyhealthy.com, where you'll get support in adding things like a GLP-1 to your meaty movement toolbox so you can look and feel your best. Hope to see you there.
Hi, my name is Adrienne. If you're new here, I have been struggling with weight my whole life, and I've done everything from being on The Biggest Loser to gastric bypass to the carnivore diet to try to get this weight off. And it wasn't until I combined a GLP-1 with eating lots of meat, a carnivore diet, and lifting weights that I've been able to get my weight and keep it off. I've never been to goal until mixing these things, because for me, it was about more than food. It was about getting my hormones in my body to communicate and optimizing the signaling inside my body. So, all right, let's get to today's topic. So, obviously, we've all heard all these people say that Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, Zepbound, it is curing their relationship with food. Meanwhile, maybe they haven't made lifestyle changes. Like maybe they still, eat whatever, they're just eating less of it, but they feel free from their relationship with food. And obviously we can all have judgments there because we all think people should be doing this or that. The truth of the matter is that I've come to concluding that to me, I don't know if there is a right or a wrong way. I think we all have to take our own path and we have to heal one step at a time. A lot of people, it's so hard to make lifestyle changes when you are so heavy and you are so tired and you're having these crazy cravings because your hormones are not communicating. You are carrying a cement suit around with you every day. You don't feel good about yourself. You don't feel like you fit in. We all know what society is saying about everyone who struggles with their weight. We all know what they're saying, and it's horrible. Truth be told, it is a condition. If you're metabolically flexible, you can eat very flexibly. If you cannot eat flexibly, something is off. Okay. So I thought that healing meant truly eliminating what you're doing and almost trying to be perfect, eating a carnivore diet, exercising every day, getting your sunlight, reducing your exposure, surrounding yourself with good people, not drinking alcohol, not drinking pop, not consuming chemicals. That's what I really thought healing was. Now I think those are just tools in the toolbox, and hopefully people primarily work towards some of those tools. I don't think everybody has to be carnivore, but I think people should eat a lot of meat personally. I've literally watched family members drink wine every day and eat chocolate and start looking a little bit zombie-like and admit that they're pretty nauseous a lot of times. And I'm thinking, why are you on this medicine? Why can't you just eat meat? Now I'm eating dirt, because had they just gone and eaten meat, I don't think they would have been successful, because it didn't address some things that are going on in my family, which a lot of my family has, honestly, a hormone deficiency, and the signaling isn't going on. We have a lot of addiction in our family. And as you look into GLP-1s, peptides, and what they do to the addiction axis in the brain, it actually works on healing it and stimulating it to work in an appropriate way. But let's get more into my history of my relationship with food. So I have been on a diet my whole life. I've always been overweight. And as a child, I was severely bullied every day of my life. I was raised by a single dad. We had to move in with my grandma, who struggled with the disease of alcoholism. And I say disease because truly she was suffering, and she was very verbally abusive. So I was getting this verbal abuse at home, and then I was going to school, and all the kids would make fun of me, mostly boys. I mean, it was their full-time job. I just want to say, for the record, I have no resentment. They turned out to be really good humans, all of them. So if you have a kid that's kind of a bully, obviously teach them other ways so they don't scar people. But overall, hopefully they will actually not be horrible human beings. The people that bullied me, I do believe they are good humans to this day. But anyway, every day they followed me around. I heard every fat joke. I was told I was worthless. No one was ever going to love me. There was a kid that followed me around and said boom every time I stepped, because he said I was shaking china. I was beat up. I was pushed over. I was never picked for anything. I was always the last one. I didn't have a ton of friends, but I will tell you, the friends I did have, they are my friends to this day. You know who you are, Miranda and Andrea. Well, I guess I don't know Andrea that well, but I know Miranda. Okay, anyway. and Marcy. So I was really, really bullied, and things kind of turned around a little bit when my dad married my stepmom. Now I had a woman figure in my life, and I remember shortly after they got married having the confidence to look at my bullies and say, I am not fat. I didn't believe it, but I said it, and they left me alone after that. From there forward, I started doing things. But even then, I was always a big kid. So everyone around me, aunts, uncles, grandparents, they were always restricting my food and making comments about what I ate. Constantly restricting what I ate. We have to give Adrian baby portions because look at how fat she is. She needs to be on a diet. She needs to exercise. Meanwhile, giving everyone else the stuff. Or if I ate the same stuff as everybody else, getting sideways looks because clearly that's why I'm fat, because I'm eating what everybody else is eating. I mean, it was really, really building a horrible relationship with food from the beginning. Very, very horrible. In high school, I really restricted everything that I ate. But here's the thing. I would have these episodes where I would have a piece of bread or I would have orange juice and I just couldn't stop. I would drink the whole pitcher of orange juice. I would eat the whole half a loaf of bread. They called me Adrian Bread Cordismacki is my maiden name. And so people saw around me that I would just like hoover it in. I would have these rebounds, which I thought were just so like, why am I so out of control? I really hated myself for this. When I went to college, I gained a ton of weight. Of course, there's always this blame of, oh, it's because you went to college and you ate all that pizza. But really, gaining 60 pounds in a year is really inappropriate, and it's a red flag of metabolic syndrome. But when I would go to the doctor, they would just give me mental health medications and birth control, which I'm certain was making everything worse. Still, my relationship with food, my relationship with myself was horrible. That's when I applied to be on the TV show, The Biggest Loser. And it was, I just thought if I could finally be not part of the fat group. I could finally not be the biggest person in the room. I remember going to Europe. I studied abroad in the Czech Republic and went over to Slovakia, and I was the biggest person everywhere I went. I couldn't even find clothes. I thought that The Biggest Loser was truly, it was going to save me. I felt like I won the lottery. Now, this is where we add a little tool to the toolbox, though. I was very successful on the TV show, and I lost 66 pounds. And it was very weird to be in that body and be getting this attention beyond commercials, beyond TV, getting makeovers, getting flown back and forth to California, and realize I'm actually the same me that I was when I was 66 pounds heavier. I'm the same exact person. I'm the same timid person. I'm the same person who still thinks I'm not worthy. I'm the same person who still thinks I'm not lovable, but I'm closer to the body that I thought I needed to be in to be worthy and to be lovable. And so it was my first wake-up call of like, what am I going to do about this? I do have to say I never got to my goal. Even Biggest Loser, hardcore calories, hardcore, I never got to my goal. Another thing though was a lesson, a tool in my toolbox that anything is possible. I got picked out of hundreds of thousands of people. And to me, I got to experience a lesson that I wish every human on earth could experience, which is that literally anything is possible. I could be the president of the country one day. Anything is possible. I could go to outer space. I could become rich and famous. Anything is possible. I was once trapped in a very not good marriage. And I thought, this is just life. And here I am today, married to someone who I absolutely love, and I love my life every day. And so how did I get out of that? Because I got to learn the lesson. Anything is possible. Anything. Through God, anything is possible. So what The Biggest Loser did, though, was teach me that calories are the enemy. So that either needs to be restriction, or it needs to be exercise, or it needs to be both. Next thing I did was have gastric bypass. Well, so after the show, I gained 160 pounds. So I topped almost 200 pounds more than I am today, over 300 pounds. I was pretty close to 330 pounds when I was at my highest and had all of that. So this really built a fear inside of me that food causes me weight gain, because I had this extreme weight gain after the show. It made me afraid of my body, because how could I gain all that weight back and just not have control? And just really, really fearing food, knowing that calorie deficit is what is so important here. So after that, after I got to my 330, I had a wake-up call. I cannot live like this. I have to lose weight. And so I began that restriction and that running again. And all this weight back. And I know I have to go hardcore. I've got to start running, and I got to start restricting. I portioned all my foods and I lost 100 pounds by myself. But then I started gaining again. And I was still doing the same things. And that's when my relationship with food and with myself really, really, really struggled, because why could I be doing all these things, running and working out every day and restricting all my food and counting everything I do and portioning everything I do and eating low fat and low calorie and still be gaining weight? I knew something was wrong. So that's when I went and had gastric bypass. Gastric bypass can both restrict how much food you eat, because I'm thinking it's the quantity, and it also causes malabsorption for a period of time. So now, because obviously I'm overabsorbing my food, how can I be eating 900 calories and running 5Ks at 245 pounds and gaining weight again? Or 230 pounds and start gaining weight again. So I have gastric bypass because clearly I need to eat baby portions. That is the answer. So after gastric bypass, you're supposed to eat between a half a cup and a full cup of food. And most of your nutrition is essentially supposed to come from supplements because you eat so little. And you're just supposed to eat like between 800 and 1,000 calories a day for the rest of your life to keep your weight off. I did lose some weight, but the food noise was what we call it now. The cravings came on pretty hot and heavy just a few months after the surgery. And I guess I'm going to skip forward and just tell you what I've learned is that gastric bypass manipulates the stomach, and it makes it really tiny, like this big. And it also skips between 100 and 150 centimeters of your intestine. I want to say my surgeon said he took like 125 centimeters of my intestine, moved it down. And so we skip that 125. So you dump food deep into your intestine. And that portion of your intestine is heavily produces GLP-1. So I dump it deep there. So you end up with this heavy GLP-1 production for a while. And over time, you actually become less sensitive to that GLP-1. For some people, it's 6 months. For some people, it's 10 years. But eventually the food noise becomes so loud after bariatric surgery. So I have this because I'm thinking food is the enemy. I need to eat as little of it as possible. And if I could not absorb it too, that'd be great. What ended up happening is I ended up with a case of chronic hypoglycemia. I'm sorry, you guys have to hear about this all the time, but it's been so dramatic. Chronic hypoglycemia made carbohydrates the enemy. Anything that can turn into a carbohydrate, anything that's quick energy, it became the enemy because I'd have a big insulin response to it, and glucagon, which is it's a hormone that comes in and brings sugar from the liver into the bloodstream to balance everything back out. The glucagon never came. So I'm having these spells of really low blood sugar, like in the 30s. I'm shaking, I'm sweating, I even pass out. And I just can't seem to control it. So over the next 10 years, the next 8 years, it is my job now to figure out what is triggering this hypoglycemia. Again, the food is the enemy. So I'm reducing the food because clearly it's food that's triggering it. It took me a good 7 years to figure out that it was more than food. It was also hormonal. My adrenals were shot, so I couldn't handle any stress. So I didn't have to eat any carbohydrates at all. A stressful event would bomb my blood sugar out. So again, my relationship with food is not great. I'm still struggling with so much food noise constantly. I'm doing all of the restriction that we're told we have to do. I'm doing all the exercise I'm told we have to do to not be obese. And yet I'm struggling with my weight. I just keep battling not being 300 pounds again. If I let my guard down, I literally would gain 10 pounds a month. I mean, it is crazy, my chronic weight gaining that I've been having. And yet society just kept telling me that it's because of my food. It's because I eat. It's because I overeat. It's because I'm closet eating. It's because I don't know how to count. I don't know how to exercise. It's just a me problem. And I really took that on to heart and just continued to restrict and restrict. At some point, I decided that I did not want to drink. I had kids. And growing up with a grandma who was very verbally abusive, who struggled with the disease of alcohol, I didn't want that around my kids either. So once my first two kids were born, I joined a 12-step program to get that out of my life. I felt like it was something that just wasn't going to help our whole family. And although I look back and I think it was like my drive really was my grandma, and to never one day in my kid's life experience what I experienced, never one day be around a parent or a figure or a family member who hurts you because they are struggling with alcoholism. So I quit. And what's really cool about this is in my 12-step program, I got some more tools in my toolbox. So we've got the lesson that anything is possible from The Biggest Loser. We've got I'm the same person, whether I'm big or small. Some people don't get that lesson because they can never get their weight down. So they never get to learn that you have value no matter what size you are. But I got to learn that. So we got those 2 tools. And then now in my new tools are, I learned that I am lovable and deserving. I am God's creation just like everybody else. God created us exactly as we are. Even when I screw up, even when I say stupid things, I am still lovable and I'm still a human, and nobody has to be perfect. I learned what humility is. To me, humility meant just thinking less of myself, just thinking less about myself. I thought that's what humility was just, almost not being nice to myself. What I learned there was humility is just thinking less of yourself. Not less about yourself, but less of yourself, and think more about other people. And I really love that. I really, really love that. Another lesson was just service. You're having a bad day, go do something for someone else. It will clear everything up. It absolutely will. And it's such a gift to get to serve other people. I cry every day. I cry a lot because I can't believe the position that God has given me to get to help other people every day. Anyway, so service is another tool in the toolbox. Gratitude. I learned in my 12-step program that if you are being really negative, if you are really anxious, if you are stuck in the problem, you're not necessarily living in gratitude. So whenever I'm having a bad day, like for example, when Meta shuts down and restricts your accounts, you got to just think to yourself, but I can still talk. I can still walk. I still have shelter. I still have family. I still have friends. I still have food. I can use my fingers. I can see. There's always something to be grateful for. And the worse your condition is, you got to start with the simple ones. I still have 10 toes. I still have 10 toenails. You got to start there. Almost make yourself laugh. It's not a laughing thing, actually. It is a gratitude thing to be able to have 10 toes. And move up from there. And next thing you notice, you realize, man, my life is actually pretty great, even in those really hard times. And then the last tool in the toolbox was actually embracing giving it to God. I'd been a Christian my whole life, but never to this level had I ever really grasped giving it to God. And previously, for a good way would be, and I know that there's ways around this, but let's say you're having a really hard time and you got a plan that you want. So you pray to get God what you want, I guess. I don't know how to explain this. Are you giving it to God or are you not? If you're stuck in it, do you really believe that God can fix this? And I personally believe that God can do all things. With God, all things are possible. So giving it to God is a really big tool in my toolbox. When my accounts were restricted, I just prayed. I said, God, guide me to how I can communicate with people. If this isn't it, how do I communicate with people? There's got to be another way. God, show me the way. And I do believe God's got it. So joining a 12-step program, quitting drinking, added tools to my toolbox that later on are going to come help with my relationship with food. There was a point to that. Okay. So as we go, I've got this hypoglycemia. I start adding on other types of symptoms: brain fog, no energy, food reactions, memory problems. These keep stacking. So on top of the hypoglycemia, there's other things. And because of that, I was reducing more and more and more over the years before carnivore. So ever since gastric bypass, I have been low carb whole foods. But after Porter was born, my 6-year-old, that's when I started realizing maybe I need to reduce my dairy. Maybe I need to watch my beans. I started learning about autoimmune conditions I might have. I wasn't diagnosed at that time. I wasn't until Volmer was born was really where we figured out what autoimmune things were going on. But I started learning that there were plants and foods that could affect my health and my autoimmune conditions. So I cut all the chemicals, dairy, sweeteners. I was cutting a lot of things before I went carnivore. And finally, my dad said, why just give up the green beans? Just give them up, Why are you holding on to those last few plants? Just go full carnivore, raw. And so I did. And as far as my relationship with food, it was euphoric for a while, 3 months. I was on a 3-month pink cloud of wow. When you switch from eating carbohydrates, even if they're low carb plants, and you just cut everything and you just eat meat, it is the fullest you've ever been in your life. You get to be nourished. That weight in your stomach really, really, I believe, stimulates a lot of GLP-1. It moves slowly through your digestive tract, which really, really stimulates that hormone. And so for a long time, you have this quiet and it feels good. I've heard some people say that the quiet continues. It did not continue for me. About 3 months in is when it kind of came back. And after that, I started chasing. How do I get that back? I must have screwed it up. It's got to be the food. It can't be something else like a hormone deficiency or a hormone communication problem. It's got to be the food and it's got to be me. And I need to restrict more. So I start joining. First thing I do is try the fasting to kind of clear things out, help your blood sugar, create autophagy, heal things. So I start with the fasting combined with carnivore, and I'm still exercising. The food noise comes back. So then I join the groups and I start learning maybe we should try different things like a fat fast where you eat nothing but fast and you boost up those ketones and it gives you a sense of quiet in your brain. Again, every single challenge I did initially gave me this nice piece of quiet, mental quiet, I would say, and a feeling of like I'm succeeding because I'm finding the foods that I could have the most peace with. I also tried things like sardine fasts, and sardine fasts are great for boosting your autophagy, boosting your ketones, really giving you a sense of fullness, really reducing your inflammation. They feel fabulous. I will do more sardine fasts in the future. And I also tried the lion diet. I went all the way down to ruminant meat, salt, water. Before I go into lion diet, actually, I want to say, after some of these fasts, after some of these challenges, like I would do a challenge, I am not going to drink coffee for the month of May. Most of my carnivore was sweetener free. I am not going to eat eggs for the month of June. Like trying to figure out which foods were triggering the noise in my head that would tell me like, you want more. You want more. Like I still had all these cravings. I would wake up even on carnivore in the middle of the night wanting to eat. I cut the dairy. Dairy can be dairy can call to you. It can just be like never ending food noise that you just want more, more, more. Like you'll never fill up on dairy, right? So I just did all these experiments and they would end up often in something that I'm now going to call a rebound. But at the time I would call it like binging episodes. And I would just like numb out. You got to eat, you got to eat, you got to eat nonstop. And eventually I would cave and I would go eat something. And once I would get started, it's almost like I blacked out and then I would come to and all the food would be gone. And the second it would empty out of my stomach, it would say, eat, 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 eat. And I would just eat more. And this isn't carbohydrates. This is me being carnivore. And so I would find myself with these like episodes, and I've learned something since then, but I was very cognizant along the way, like this healing journey for me wasn't just about weight loss. It was about healing my relationship with food. And so I would analyze, why did I have that rebound? And one of the number one things would be if I did a calorie deficit. So after a year into carnivore, I stopped having calorie deficits in an extreme manner. Like I would eat between 1,800 and 2,600 calories, kind of ranging closer to the 18 to 2,100. But I coupled that with really long walks, like 12 miles a day, 5 days a week, and 3 days of lifting. So I'm using a lot of energy. How many calories is walking 12 miles? How many calories is weightlifting? It was never a calorie thing. It was getting what felt like getting the stink out. I would like get the stink out, and it felt so good. Now I know why. The lymphatic movement, the fresh air, the sun. It's just like long walks feel really good. Weightlifting feels really good. So I would get that out. I'd have just a moderate, maybe even close to maintenance eating, but it just wasn't enough. If I went below that 1,800 calories, that my body would just get ravenous. It would say, you have to fuel me. And it would bother me until I would fuel. And so I just knew after that first year. So in the first year, I was going under 1,800 calories. After that first year, I refused to do it because it was triggering these episodes. And I didn't want to live in that hell anymore. So if that means that I have to eat 1,800 calories or more and we have to figure other ways to lose weight, that's what we have to do because I don't want to live in that hell anymore. So eventually I went lion diet because I was like, that is like the deepest level of healing that there can be. So you eat ruminant meat, salt and water, which is lamb, beef, bison, buffalo, deer, goat, ruminant. They have the multiple chamber stomachs, and then salt and water. And for a month, I felt euphoric. You can actually go look at my Lion Diet list. You can go look at it. And I was like, this is so awesome. I'm doing so awesome. Again, not below that 1800, not triggering those episodes based on a calorie deficit rebound happening. So I was losing weight, losing inflammation, having space in the brain. And that's when it just snowballed. And I just kept going because I was like, I'm going to overcome this. I'm going to overcome this. A Lion Diet is the way. Carnivoring harder is going to heal my relationship with food. It is. It's going to heal my relationship. Everything's going to be great. It's going to heal my body. It's going to autophagy me. This is the thing. I got to keep doing it. So I did it for almost 2 months before realizing this is not the ticket. After that, I realized restricting food isn't going to heal my relationship with food, and I had to find something else. So the first thing I realized was I struggle with taking out the coffee. And I think it's a rebellion thing a little bit because I don't actually really like coffee that much. Like to this day, I drink a half a cup of coffee a day just to mentally have it, but it really doesn't taste that good. And then I also decided I'm going to have my Coco Loco. It is 2 calories. It has no maltodextrin. So I got a CGM from Dr. Boz, and it did not affect my blood sugar the way the other ones that are very popular in our community did that are loaded with maltodextrin. This has no maltodextrin. It has no citric acid. And it tastes amazing. It's so good. I would have never guessed this was actually sitting in my cupboard for like 8 months. And I went to a conference and they had it on ice. That was at Keto Orlando last year. And I've drinking it every day since then because it is so good. I get my electrolytes in. I get my fluid in. It's seriously so good. So I decided, as long as it doesn't trigger other behavior, that I was going to allow myself to have my Coco Loco, and I'm going to have my coffee, and I'm going to I had some lactose-free half and half that I also allowed myself to have in my coffee. So I had that, and my body just blew up. Like not doing hard things, not sardine fasting, not walking 12 miles a day, but still strict carnivore, except for my coffee. Half and half is still carnivore, and this 2 calorie electrolyte. I blew up. My lowest weight on carnivore, I think, was like 153 or 55. I didn't stay there for more than 2 minutes, but mostly I was like 158. But I went up to 184 within just a hot breath. I immediately went to the doctor because I said there's something wrong. Nobody should be gaining 30 pounds like this. They got me on some thyroid medicine and some bioidentical hormone therapy, and it kind of slowed it down, but it didn't quite stop it. And so that's when I heard a podcast with Dr. Amy Horniman, and she talked about the Mangjaro Zepbound and how it can heal people with autoimmune conditions, and it can reduce inflammation from the people who just really struggle with that chronic inflammation, like that 14 pounds that I gained while strict Lion dieting, tracking to a perfection level. I was doing that diet and I got all this inflammation. And then it did say it would calm the food noise, and it did not immediately heal my relationship with food because I took such a low dose that I never had appetite suppression. And what was really weird was that I started on the starting dose, and I slowly over the next few months went up to a 5, which is the second dose of tirzepatide Zepbound Mounjaro. I only slowly went up, and I never had that. I mean, what I noticed was that I still lost the inflammation. I still lost weight, but I really couldn't eat off plan. I really couldn't, because if I did, I was still having the same problems as I had before, which is that it would trigger me to just mindlessly eat it until it was gone. It would bother me constantly. I mean, literally, let's say there was some whipped cream in the house and I made a whole batch of it. And if I didn't finish it before bed, I would literally wake up and my body would tell me in the middle of the night to go finish that whipped cream. So that I didn't have relief from that while I was in weight loss, while I was really low in my dose. Now that doesn't sound low to other people, but that was low for me because truly I could eat all my meat and I did have to avoid foods. So I did some experiments along the way to see if I could add any foods back, and they kind of failed. Like for example, in October, so I'm only a month into the peptide, I tried a piece of apple pie. For the rest of the day, I had food noise after eating that piece of apple pie. The good news was I didn't have hypoglycemia like I did for the last 9 years before that. But The bad news is I still had that sugar noise. I did a few other experiments that failed and some that succeeded. Like I was able to eat a little bit of bread without eating a whole loaf of bread. And yeah, grains isn't the best thing to add, but I just thought that was interesting that I was able to eat that without getting inflammation. So I'm not having the same response to food as I was before. Before, if I had any dairy at all, I was blowing up and I would literally look pregnant. I'm not getting that inflammation. The next thing is, when I did these experiments, even if they went really bad, I wasn't gaining weight. Like that day that I had all those sugar cravings, first of all, I didn't get the sugar inflammation. And secondly, I didn't gain 10 pounds like I used to. So it's no wonder my relationship with food was horrible before. If I made any mistake at all, ever, I would have extreme weight gain from it. Extreme weight gain, extreme gut issues, extreme inflammation. And then it would snowball into these horrible binging events that I couldn't stop. The one thing I can say is now, even on the lower dose, I could, let's say I was having those sugar cravings. If I ate a bowl of hamburger, like chased it, if I chased it with some meat, that would go away. So I was able to stop it. Where previously, if I ate something, I know I've said this before, it was like being thrown off a cliff and you try to like climb back out of the cliff. You try to get up the cliff, but like even with a lot of effort, you get really tired and you fall down and you're stuck at the bottom again. So you try again and you fall down again because you run out of energy. Eventually, for me, I would join a group and it would be like they'd like throw me a rope, and it was still so much work to get up the cliff. But with the team, I was able to get up the cliff. And once I got up to the cliff, I was like, I made it. And this was like a several week process. And you'd look back and you'd be like, I'm never eating that again. I never want to fall off that cliff ever again. With a GLP-1, even on the low dose, I know I've said this before, it would be like now walking up a hill. Like the hill is hard to get up, but it was building my leg muscles, building my glutes. It was a workout to get up the hill, but it would really only take like one meal instead of 2 weeks, or the rule of 3. You got to do it for 3 days. That's how you get out of it before a GLP-1. You got to eat clean for 3 days, 1 meal at a time, and you'll be up that cliff. And I digress. So now I'm noticing, though, I'm able to get out of my failed experiments a bit quicker. I'm not having the same repercussions. My relationship with food really wasn't healed, though, until recently. I'm not even going to say like I'm fully cured, but I'm going to say there's absolutely a level of healing I've never experienced in my whole life. I did slowly I lost a lot of weight in the beginning. I was tracking everything. I was doing the same things I always do. And then I got to a point where I got to the 140s. I'd never been in the 140s in my life. Heck, I've barely been in the 150s. And so the 140s, this is when I started getting the comments that I was getting too skinny. This is when I started getting the comments of how much weight are you trying to lose? This is when I start getting those comments. Now, granted, I'm still probably 25% fat. Like I'm starting to get into a normal range. So that's when I kind of like that I slowed down starting in the 140s where I just started living. I stopped tracking so much. I did more experiments again without tracking. I slowed down on my perfection level exercise. Like I'm going to become like a bodybuilder on the stage. And I just started living my life a whole lot more. And what I noticed next was that I didn't gain weight. But here was the weird thing was that I never really got the appetite suppression thing. And that kind of always bothered me. So I started doing experiments where instead of taking it every 7 days, I took it every 5 days because the medication I was on actually has a 5-day half-life. So I switched it to that and I upped it just a little. And finally, I started understanding what people were talking about. And the medication can actually increase your metabolism a little bit. So I added a little bit of retatrutide, just a little bit on top. And I actually saw an increase in my metabolism. So not tracking, reducing my exercise, living my life over the next 4 months, I lost 10 pounds. What a perfect way versus my previous life where I would gain 10 pounds just because I looked at, dairy. Honestly, like I was measuring in my previous life, I would measure the half and half I was putting in my coffee and I would put 2 tablespoons and it would cause a 10-pound weight gain, which obviously is a lot of inflammation, but it wouldn't just go away. So it felt a lot more than inflammation to me. So to just live and kind of find the right dose and start having a little bit more of that relief that I never had before. When I was low dose, I was really white knuckling it the whole time. Not white knuckling it, but doing a lot of work. But the tool was working because I was losing weight, I was losing inflammation, I was able to nourish myself fully, but I never had that much quiet in my head. And I really wasn't able to add any other foods without still having, it just causing intense food noise. And so I still was super, super restrictive. So when I moved to this, I was able to do a few more experiments. I've even tried fruit. Now, full disclosure, primarily, I eat the same things every day, which is eggs, cheese, beef, fish. That's primarily what I eat every single day. I was able to eat them, not gain weight, continue to slowly lose weight. My body feels great. I feel like the comp is pretty good, I think. And it's been an amazing experiment. Then I started working with a new hormone and thyroid specialist, and she said that, and we tweaked things. I was already working with a functional doctor that had me on stuff, but she tweaked things. And all of a sudden, and I think one of the things was getting me to sleep through the night. I think that's a big piece here, is the sleeping through the night. All of a sudden, whoosh, I had too much appetite suppression, like overnight, from getting 2 weeks worth of sleeping through the night. Whoosh, all of a sudden my sensitivity to this medication went through the roof, and I had to lower and lower. Never did I ever want to be in a place where you look at food and go, so I've lowered quite a bit. And so I'm still at a place of peace. I still haven't gained my weight back. I've been maintaining now since February. We are in June, so February. So we're going to go March, April, May. So 3 months, no tracking, not obsessing about everything, living my life, and I just feel free. So this is where I think that they were right. I'm not really afraid of food anymore. I know what I want to do to keep my body composition and to be healthy and to build my brain and to be healthy and to build my bones and to live a long, healthy life is to eat a lot of meat. That's primarily what I stick with because that's where I feel best. However, the fear, the condemnation, the circles that I was going with food before, and I've lowered my dose now. And I just feel like, let's say we wanted to go to an apple festival again, I wouldn't be afraid to maybe try a little bit of apple pie. I mean, I still have to be careful because I still have hypoglycemia. Like, the shot did not cure my hypoglycemia. I have an inappropriate response because my anatomy has been altered. But a little bit of it, I think that I would feel okay. Maybe having a little bit. Like, I really don't feel afraid. I don't feel afraid to not track. If I exercise, it's because it feels good. It's not because I'm afraid that if I stop, I'm going to gain 20 pounds. Like, I really feel so much better. So I think that GLP-1 does heal your relationship with food. I actually do. So here's a couple reasons mechanistically why it actually does. It regulates your appetite signaling. So it actually gets the signaling to your brain that you are full. Previously, that signaling was not getting there. It didn't matter what diet I threw at it. It did not matter how much therapy I did. The signaling wasn't getting to my brain. It reduces the reward seeking because it targets dopamine systems, which equals less compulsive eating. I have the same thing with shopping right now. I have the same thing with so many things. Like, I guess shopping is the big one. That seeping that dopamine hit is just, it's not there. It's so much more regulated now that my hormones are communicating. It improves your insulin and your blood sugar, which really, again, helps with that signaling. So when you're not having the highs and lows, you're not like strongly having those cravings. You're not crashing. It reduces the food noise because, again, we're actually getting hormone signaling. So instead of my body telling me constantly, eat, it's not. And even some of those foods like dairy used to cause intense food noise. Dairy does not cause that for me anymore. I eat dairy, I'm good. I have a little bit on my burger patty. I have a little bit on my eggs, and I'm good. And it can break the binging and restricting cycle just because you stop fearing food. If you're not feeling this relief yet, I think it could be from a few things. Number one, maybe you're on a really low dose. So you're just not on enough to get that relief. So one thing you could consider is, depending on your medication, how fast is it metabolizing? Because perhaps your body's metabolizing it really fast, leaving you on E for a portion of the day. So for me, I believe my body was metabolizing it too fast. It wasn't absorbing it. And it was leaving me with maybe 4 days with what felt like nothing in my system. Make sure you're working on your sleep, your hormones, and your thyroid. That means also reducing your stress, looking at your circadian health, working with someone who's great. At radicallyhealthy.com, we have a provider who is amazing, and she's pretty well priced. I think she's one of the best priced hormone people I've worked with independently. She's worked with people for a long time. Another thing is, are you still in weight loss mode? It's really hard to build that relationship with food when you've been struggling with your weight for a long time. It's hard to trust that if you eat something, you're not going to have chronic weight gain. And because we've been told food's the answer, food's a problem, food's a problem, food's a problem, not only were we told that, but we were able to see it. Like if we added a tablespoon of cream and we gained 10 pounds, we were able to feel that inappropriate hormone or that inappropriate weight gain. So it's hard to trust that you're not just going to gain the weight back. How many of us have lost the weight before and regained it almost immediately over and over and over again? Another thing, if you're still on weight loss, is, part of healing to me has had to be experiencing getting to my goal and it not disappearing immediately, and just feeling that zen and feeling the stability helped that relationship with food. So if you're not there yet, just understand it's almost something for me that I had to experience. There's no way people could have told me your relationship is going to improve when you get to maintenance. I would have said, I've never been to maintenance, so I'm not sure if that's going to happen for me. In fact, I have video of me along the way saying to my best friend, I don't think this is going to work for me. Nothing ever works for me. This is just not, negativity. And I had to experience it to believe it. I had to reintroduce those foods I was afraid of. And I had to experience overcoming it and being okay. So perhaps you've never tried that, so the fear is still there. Now, am I saying that you should eat brownies? It's really up to you. We are bio-individual, and our relationship with food, I also believe, is individual. There have been things that I tried that failed. I'll tell you, popcorn and pistachios. But here's the thing, I'm no longer afraid of them. If we were at a movie theater and I bought one packet of pistachios, I would eat them. I would not, however, buy the Costco bag of pistachios and bring it home. So I learned boundaries, and those boundaries work because the GLP-1, the Ozempic, Wegovy, Zepbound, Mounjaro, has helped get the signaling to my brain. The signaling never got to my brain before. And I had to experience over and over again not getting inflamed and sick, and surviving eating something that previously didn't work for me. So that is what has healed my relationship with food. Now, do I ever overeat? Yes. But the difference is there's no longer any pain, remorse, fear, condemnation after it happens. It just goes, oh, I fueled myself. My body obviously wanted more, so I fueled. Good for me. And I move on. I mean, I think that we need to have times. Part of the reason I think I still have a good metabolism, even after losing 50 pounds with this, is that I did have a lot of time where I fueled, and these last 10 pounds came off very, very slowly. And so I have a metabolism, and I see in my experience that I don't have to fear fueling my body. So addiction, is that still real? I think it is, but I really think these help with addiction. And Dr. Boz talks about this. There's probably some podcasts maybe coming out with her. And she talked about this at Meat Stock, about how GLP-1s affect the addiction access in the brain. Addiction isn't just a moral failure. It is actually coming from the brain. And these really, really work on that access. Let's see here. So Ozempic, Wegovy, Mangjaro, it didn't just help my autoimmune, it's helped my relationship with food. So I have to go eat dirt now because those people were right. It really does help. If you like this content please like, subscribe, and share. And if you or anybody you know needs some help, maybe adding some more tools to your toolbox, maybe you need your hormones and your thyroid checked, maybe you need something to heal, maybe you want to be around other people who are eating a lot of meat and moving their bodies, join us at radicallyhealthy.com. We have a free community that anybody can join. It's got a resources page. I love to openly share my resources. That's not behind a paywall. I want everybody to succeed. I want everybody to have tools so that they can heal physically, mentally, all of the things, right? And then if you need more support, you love the guidance, you need someone to throw you a rope off the cliff, then join our private community where we have 8 community calls. We have a journal with suggested meal plans and workouts, and just a whole lot more support there to guide you on your journey. So either way, I'm so grateful you're here today. Again, have a great day. Like, subscribe, and share. Goodbye.